It's the discussion with esteemed experts and with representatives of all the winning solutions about the topic what we have here today, about the government and the inclusion of the citizens and how the technology can help us in that. So it's a great pleasure of mine to have on my panel today two esteemed experts. First of all, it is Marta Tomovska. Marta is the director of the Public Administration Reform Team in the Office of the Prime Minister of Serbia. Previously, Marta was Macedonian Minister for ICT and Public Administration and a C-level executive in several companies in the IT and telecommunication sectors. And she is certified by the United Nations ITU for building national digital innovation ecosystem and advising governments as well as big companies regarding digital transformations. So Marta, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Margus Mägi. Margus is eGovernment principal consultant at company Nortal. He has lots of experience from social entrepreneurship to eGovernment initiatives and business developments from Europe to Middle East. And he's been working in Estonian public institutions with digitalization initiatives as well. He was advised to the Estonian president on digital society matters. And among other achievements, he is a WSA alumni and as well won other international awards. And as well, he was nominated as social entrepreneur by Estonian Good Deed Foundation in 2006. So, Margus, a pleasure to have you here too.
Thank you for having me.
And as I already presented myself, I'm Ieva Žilionienė from Lithuania, and I've been working with digital transformation in public sector for many years. So I think I can say that I've seen successful projects and not as much successful projects. And usually it's a good thing that you can learn not just from your best practices or best things that you achieve, but as well from the mistakes that countries or institutions do, and then you can share with others to help them avoid them, hopefully. So, as I said before, I'm now leading this NRD companies group with consulting other countries and other governments with how to better use digital technologies to deliver better services to the people and to provide better governance in general. So I would like to start with a question to Marta. You know, you've been working with digital transformations in several countries, in public sector, in private companies as well. So you have a huge experience. So for you personally, what does it mean to use digital tools, digital innovations to create a better public domain?
Thank you very much, Ieva. Yes, that's true. I have a vast experience in working with different governments on digital transformation efforts, on e-government projects. And what I can say, it's something that I see every day, every single day, when we launch new e-government services. I see we're improving people's life in the literal sense of that word. Like we had just now in Serbia working on some e-services for people with disabilities. And we see that they are able to do some things that they were not even dreaming about, and that's literally changing the quality of their lives. So in every single aspect, e-government is and digital transformation of government in the entire context, like providing digital accessibility, digital access for everybody, improving digital literacy, and providing public services is something that makes people's lives much better. They have left some time to spend with their dears, with their family, with their friends, instead of waiting of the government counters, because there is no added value. at all, to waste some time on the government counters when you can see something, we can do something online, and you can literally have your government in your smartphone, which you keep in your pocket. So it's the best way to do it.
Thank you, Marta. And Margus, we've been talking about how to put digital technologies to make a better governance, I think, for 20 plus years, or even more now, starting from talking about the government and the democracy. Now we are talking about digital governance, GovTech, civil tech, and so on. But why are we still talking about that? Were we doing such a bad job for 20 years? Why it is still an issue?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I think that many of those topics which we try to solve nowadays with digital tools have been around for centuries. And many of the government features, or not features, let's call them functions, functions which government performs are actually running from the regulations and laws. So I think that why we are still tackling some of those challenges, those societal challenges, which are long-lasting and most likely will not be defeated by those digital tools also by overnight, will last longer. And in majority of the cases which I've seen, it's usually stuck in a regulatory environment. I have one really interesting example. I don't remember the dates exactly, but in the second half of 19th century in US, there was a court case about ordering goods via Telegram. I think it was the Morse code, or how you call it. Anyway, via Telegram services. And the court case was about the situation that if a buyer accepts the price of ordered goods via Telegram, is it legally binding or not? And it was in the second half of 19th century. So we have been discussing actually the digital signature legally binding, or the aspect of digital signature being legally binding for more than 100 years. So I think that the same court case more than 100 years ago is actually showcasing us that these questions and disputes have been around for quite long. And I don't know, even the standards for e-invoicing have been discussed on UN level since 1970s. So I would say that the technological maturity has become more available in the last 20 years than ever before, and because now we just start to see the actual fruits of those developments, and because of that, it's still because of that it's more topical, though the questions have been around for quite a while.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, that's a good point. And one more question to Marta. You've been around with WSA for quite a long time, and every year we see so many interesting and inspiring ideas, but still I think every year again brings something new to us. So what was exceptional to you this year? What did inspire, or really was something did have that wow effect?
Yeah, and just to just add to something what my colleague was talking about, why we are still talking about the e-government. The discussion has been shifted now. Previously, the governments were designing their solutions alone by themselves and based on the needs they think they have. Now the focus has shifted 100%, and we are talking about GovTech, which is how can startups and academia and innovative companies help the government, basically the customers, the end users, citizens, to better communicate their needs. And that's why we are just shifting the discussion now. And this year particularly, what I wanted to say is, besides for the fact that we have now startups here that are designing solutions for the government without government asking them to design that, is a huge advance. And what we see compared to other years, that some of the ideas that we have seen and have been conceived many years ago now have come to fruitful realization. So I can see, I don't know, the urban platform is a great example. We have been discussing about this for like at least 5-10 years, but now we see 60 cities on the platform with the idea to have more and more. We've seen Irma is talking about crowd management, crowdsourcing, accountability, transparency, privacy. So privacy is the key here. So how can the citizens be owners of their own data and not the government? So we're shifting the focus to a new layer of government where the citizen is in the center. The citizen and the businesses is in the center, and this is something new that I can see it is a case this year. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. It's really that is the citizen, the user is the one around whom all the services have to go around. But here we have as well with us in this discussion our winners, and so some questions to you. We had quite a difficult time the past couple of years, which made us to review and very quickly and to adapt very quickly to the changed situation during the pandemics. In your opinion, what was, let's say, the most profound effect in public sector brought by COVID pandemic? Maybe Mike and Ieva could elaborate on that.
I can start if that's okay. Thank you, Ieva. I think that actually COVID-19, while it brought many issues to us on one hand, regarding open data and digitalization, it definitely pushed us to move forward. So, for example, in our work in Lithuania, we saw that more institutions started opening up its data, and also some of them also leading by example of the parliament that was one of the first ones to do so in Lithuania, and probably now is one of the most open ones in the world. And I think what happened as well, at least what we see from our work in transparency and anti-corruption, that transparency and openness started to become sort of a habit. And I think this is what we aim for. We want that our tools, they not only serve for that moment, that they sort of also encourage the habit of, for example, politicians to be more transparent, be more open, institutions to open more data and actually start using it and measure their work, how they do, better or not.
Thank you, Ieva. So, Mike, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, because what we've seen in the Netherlands is because of the pandemic, also a lot of people needed to use a proof to whether they have a vaccine or whether they have been tested. And a lot of people became familiar with the privacy issues around proving that you are COVID-proof or not. And even in the solution that was developed by the government for that, parts of the Irma architecture are also integrated in this solution. So that also helped people to be aware about how sharing your parts of your health data to official, for example. So that's also a development that helps people to get used to tools like the COVID proof, also like the proof who you are using your Irma app.
Yes, that's right. New opportunities, things that were brought to us as well. Margus, from your experience, what good developments were brought by COVID to the digitalization of public sector?
Yes, I would say that, of course, the urgency which these kind of pandemics, or I don't know, I haven't seen many of myself, but these kind of situations actually bring on is really good for actual policymakers to realize that certain, either additional funds or more pressure on the implementation of those solutions are necessary. And what I'm really happy to see that, I mean, even on a really large scale institutions like such as the European Parliament, for example, like even the European Parliament has adopted its ways of working. Like you have 27 member states applying new ways of working on a parliamentary level, which is a really tremendous achievement, like in a sense, because how it has been implemented. Just at the beginning of the pandemic, institutions were guaranteeing even paper documents. So all the procurement processes and everything were delayed a couple of weeks and so on. So it was a great realization in the public sector, in a sense that more these type of digitalization tools should be applied and put in practice, actually, not just talking about them, that those solutions should be in place. Luckily enough, at least in Estonia, the public sector has been quite ready, and what we see, at least in the ministries and in the public sector abroad, is that it has brought the change of remote working on various levels. Before it was maybe in the ministries and so on, but now also in the front offices, like more and more these type of remote or via video conferencing services, front office services are provided, and it's all supported with a digital signature framework. So I think that the COVID has brought the most obvious, that there is a need for have those tools, and they must be secured and so on. And the urgency now actually has been realized by the politicians, because our, like everybody who are here, role is to keep up the momentum and actually implement the change and the solutions which we have been drawing now in last couple of years, and put them into practice.
Yeah, let's hope that will be the case. And even when pandemics hopefully will already disappear, the good things that we will be able to take will continue. Omar, please jump in and add something to our discussion here.
Yes, thank you, Leva. So with the pandemic, obviously, we have seen the need for technology, and the TasMu platform was privileged because we have developed shared services. This way, we have been able to help entities, public and private, to use our services to develop their solutions. But again, looking at the end users, digital literacy is also essential. And this is why, as a program, we have different initiatives to ensure digital literacy, whether they are students, professionals, elders, or even low-income workers. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very important, the issue that you touched upon, Omar. Thank you for that, because really, when we are talking about technology, I guess sometimes it's a danger that we get lost a bit about lots of fancy words, popular words, from blockchain to AI to data mining, etc., etc. But then at the end of that is the practical possibility to apply that in practice, to do a real change, not just because it's popular, but because it works and it solves a problem. And the digital skills of society is one of the areas very important for that. And the involvement of society is very important for that, just because we, as governments, as people, we work for the people. So, Gosayo, I think you have something to add to this discussion about, how to really help the governments not to forget that they are the ones working for the people. So what do you think is the biggest, the problem here? That on the one hand, it's somehow understandable that, we have the government elected by people and they have to do good. But, sometimes we need maybe to remind them, don't you think?
Yeah, great. And I think I like where this conversation is coming from. But the perspective in the room is more focused towards systems and economies or government processes that are working. When you come back to Nigeria, where we have a reality where people who get into public office do not see the need, to work for public good, then you know that we're dealing with a much bigger problem. So COVID, for example, brought us to a reality, particularly for those of us who work in the transparency and accountability space, where we couldn't go out to see with our eyes, where it was difficult for us to engage government, because, there was a lockdown. And with this lockdown brought to fore the challenges in our health sector, for example, where over 200 million people, do not have access to quality basic health care. It also brought to fore the reality that the government systems is still in its primordial days. It's still analog. So what it means is if you cannot get to a government office, it's going to be difficult for you to have engagement with the government. COVID brought us closer to the reality that Africa is beginning to get left behind in the community of nations, when it comes to digitization, when it comes to AI, when it comes to even government tech, so it further brought us to that place where we had to realize that if citizens, do not wake up to the responsibility to hold their government to account, especially moving in the thoughts of the 21st century, there was going to be a problem, So for us as part of the civil society, what we're trying to do now is to insist that we do not lose the lessons, valuable lessons COVID-19 has taught us. And this is coming from the perspective that we need to help the government think into the future. We need to help the government begin to create policies, that can be able to push us as a nation and as a people to where we're supposed to be in the community of nations, so that we don't begin to play catch-ups like we're trying to do now, right? So currently in Nigeria, we've been able to move for procurement to become digital. We're beginning to move for more digitalization of the government systems and processes, which are very important. So I just needed to bring this into the fore, that whilst we can see progress made across various, developed or developing nations, some of us, back here in Africa are still struggling to meet the barest minimum, but with increased citizens' participation and agitation, because we have citizens that are enlightened. We just have a government who has refused to move from the primordial way of doing things. So the effect is beginning to be seen in the general elections coming in 2023, where people are beginning to think about the kind of futuristic leadership, that we need in Africa, most especially in Nigeria, to be able to forge, ahead. And that's why initiatives like Follow the Money is growing across the African continent, currently, because citizens are tired of just talking about it or tweeting about it, to beginning to take active action from the grassroots level to engage their own government.
Yeah, yes, Musa, thank you very much for bringing this perspective to the discussion as well, and about the accountability, and not just on paper, but in reality is a huge issue. And again, of course, different regions have a bit different perspectives of where we stand and what is the most urgent matters to take care of. And I think that's why our discussion is very interesting because of that. Ricardo, I think you have something to add here too.
Indeed, Ieva, thank you for the opportunity. We see that governments are becoming more and more aware of the need for digital tools, and I think I don't like to say that the pandemic brought good things, because it didn't, but it brought opportunities that they accelerated and adopted more digital solutions. And Margus was just mentioning that we saw that we reduced a lot the number of travels going to visit governments physically and face-to-face, and we spent less emissions, spent less money, and accelerated these opportunities. And that's just one example of a lot of them. But indeed, the local government knows the local context, knows the population needs, knows the challenges they are facing. And as long as they are aware, they can then work together in a co-creation process with the industry and the research units to develop the best solution for them. And it's not just putting technology buzzwords on top of it, like you were mentioning. I think we need to be pragmatic and go on this roadmap together with them. So analyze what's their technology or maturity level, understand which data sets and services are available, what are the pain points, what are the challenges they are facing, and then choose the best solution for them. And only with the modular and interoperable solution like the ones we've been developing, we can do that, because we can integrate with existing systems. We don't reinvent the wheel. We do not replace the tools that they have been investing in for the last 20 years. We actually do the effort of collecting that information and make it available with others that come into the place, giving them a platform that they can use to then add more digital tools as they move towards their digitization process. So they don't need to start with a lot of equipment already available. We can bring community data. We can bring the citizens to contribute with data and engagement incentives to make them more participating in that action, but allowing the government to actually validate the data and to actually assess if it has enough quality and covers the whole population. It covers all population regarding of their age, their gender, and it does not become biased and making decisions towards a specific subgroup or subcommunity. That's essential for digital governance.
These are very good points, Ricardo. Thank you for that. And Mike, would you like to jump in?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I also want to add the user perspective into this discussion, because we, during the development of Irma, we noticed that it's very hard for people to understand what privacy is about. So we try different things to convince people about the benefits of a decentral system, but it's very hard to explain because people are experienced by the current tools, by logging in with Facebook, logging in with Gmail, and so on. That all data are can be hacked by others. So, but in general, when developing new systems by the government or by companies that helps governments ahead, it's very important to continue testing this solutions with users, because the earlier you do the user testing, the better the final solution will be.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so we now went a bit to from the technology to the, let's say, what change does this make? And it depends a lot on not just on the strategies and programs and even not legislation sometime, but on the, let's say, readiness of a public sector to respond. So, Marta, what do you think? How can we, as people, as citizens, make governments more, more responsive, more ready to react to the needs of people, of businesses?
Well, this pandemic definitely improved the demand side. The supply side has been there, especially for some of the most developed countries. So there has been many government services, there has been enough connectivity and so on, but there was not so much demand. People just have the choice of whether they are going to do that services online or offline. With the pandemics, the demand has been very high. People are doing everything online now, so we are sure that as long as people are there and they are using the government services, they are going to push the governments for improving the services themselves. So also there is a huge discussion, even on the social networks, for any service that government launches. There is criticism if the customer experience is not perfect, like they used to have while they're on Amazon, for example, and then the government are obliged to react to that and improve the customer experience. And there's so many things also about the this awareness of citizens that they should be part of the decision making in the society. So they just come to governments with certain initiatives. We have almost every day receiving initiatives for digitalizing new services, or to improving some process, to optimizing some process, to opening some data, to have the governments on a local or central level more accountable. So, the process has started. As I said, the demand for the digitalization is there. And now I think that societies are mobilized behind the government digital agenda to make their society digital end to end.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's really obvious that now we have a very practical need, for all these digital tools. Not just nice to have, we need them, but sometimes I have the feeling that while we solve the problem at this very pragmatic level, for example, with digitalization of services and so on, but when we talk about more deep level of involving people in decision making and so on, so it's more complicated and not so obvious that these tools really produce the expected results, or that these tools are enough. Ieva, I think you have something to say on that topic.
Yes, I was also thinking about supply and demand, and being from the other side, from non-governmental organization that works with various tools, online tools, and can actually offer good solutions for the government or other institutions. We also have been witnessing a challenge. For example, in the Europe, we have for a couple of years now General Data Protection Regulation, which is very good to protect our private information. But at least what we have been witnessing in Lithuania, I understand in other European countries as well, please other colleagues jump in, that actually public institutions started gold plating it. So they really want digital solutions, but when it comes to public officials' data, when it comes to politicians' data, such as interest declarations, such as lobby meetings, such as financial assets declarations, they are not always so inclined to give that data in open data format, which means that we have to go and take those paper documents or HTML formats that are not machine readable and work with this data. It means that it takes longer time for us to produce something good. So when we were building our theory of change, we have this saying in Lithuania that let's take one step at a time, and we say a bird in a hand is better than a moose in the woods. So this is the approach that we've been taking and going little by little. And when we have good examples, then others want to follow. So this is our experience as well.
Thank you, Ieva, for sharing that. Ricardo, please.
Yes, on our perspective, we don't see it only as supply and demand, right? It's a joint effort. So the two sides need to work together. Indeed, to engage the community to be a part of it is probably not something that the technology solves by itself, but it can help and enable it. So when people become aware of the power of the technology and having that information available, not just on their smartphones if they have one, but actually in infrastructure or services that the government can bring to them in their own public buildings and at street level, it helps them to become aware of the efforts that the government is doing. Then there are incentives that they can bring in to make them a part, but that has to be something that's fit to the custom and local context. So again, I think that the local knowledge of their community and the concrete challenges that they are overcoming and their goals for the strategy in for the next upcoming years are essential to co-create this together with the supply, with the providers of the technology.
Yes, that's true. Omar, would you like to add something to that?
Yes, thank you. I believe and we believe that it's all about the ecosystem. So when we create the digital ecosystem, I believe everyone has a part to play: the government, the companies, the individuals. Because if we even if we develop the best technology like the digital twins, without the data from the transport sector, we cannot really predict anything. And even if we onboard let's say the stakeholders, if there are no end users, then again, it becomes useless. For example, the virtual consultation, if we don't have people using it, then the technology itself becomes redundant. So I believe, again, it's an ecosystem and everyone has to understand that they have a role to play.
Yeah, of course. And so one part cannot function without the other, because we won't get anywhere without that. Margus, I'm sure you have something to say here too.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to add that what we see also with the new technologies emerging, that many, let's say, constitutional or this type of old institutions which have been around for decades or hundreds of years, is it either notaries or postal services or such, feel kind of anxious about that. What is their role in the to-be digital society, in a sense that are notaries anymore needed if we have all those digital tools? Like, do they actually need to be the facilitators of certain transactions and whatnot? Or the anticipation that, if we have really good digital tools, then the engagement of the public could be better, and maybe even we could skip the parliaments, in a sense that just public come together and vote for what they see the most fit regulation, and we have the ultimate democracy in place, and so on. So I don't know how it's going to be in future, because nobody knows. But I feel that even though that we have a strong enthusiasm towards the digital tools and so on, those institutions which are in place or which have been put in place have certain credibility and role also to play in society. So I think that the intermediate process from digital self-governed utopia type of thing definitely will be that those institutions which are either constitutional or some other way in place need to just be more open, in a sense that engaging the public more, though not giving their role away, in a sense that certain functions, public functions, are just handed to the citizens to take care of. Because actually citizens are paying taxes, at least in Estonia. So citizens are paying taxes, and this tax money is actually used in order to make this public function to operate certain need which the society as such has. And my take on this is that if you digitally democratize certain functions, then people actually don't want, if it's for them a burden, then they don't want to do it. They want to have a say, but they don't want to take the responsibility on certain public aspects, such as, for example, the Lithuanian Parliament transparency portal. It's really great that people who have actually a true interest to see that what the lobby groups are doing and follow up and be vocal about this. Those groups definitely need to have a tool and mean to do that. But for me, it is still kind of a mind game and puzzle that what if we would take the ombudsman role totally away and put it on the public, so that the transparency would work as an ombudsman. And I'm a bit doubtful that it would happen over the day, let's say, in this way, even if those tools would be in place. So in a way or another, it's a great period of time where we can, play around with different digitalization tools and apply them on a society and see how this works out. But I think that the transition period is going to be from full digital democracy with steps, like everything evolves.
Yes, thank you, Margus. And Omar, I think you have something to add, but please be short, because we are now already coming to the end of the
I'm going to be very short. I just wanted to highlight one more society impact of technology, which is jobs. Many would argue that jobs disappear, but I would like to say that jobs do not disappear. Positions disappear, jobs stay. For example, cameramen used to ride helicopters to take shots, like bird of view shots. Today, we have people flying drones. So jobs stay, positions disappear. Thank you.
Thank you. And now our discussion is coming, unfortunately, to the end, because I think we still have lots and lots of interesting ideas to share, but I think we have the possibility to do that. I want to ask you all to share, your perspective. WSA is about finding the best, the most interesting digital solutions in different parts of the world, and to share, to communicate that knowledge, to communicate that know-how, to communicate these ideas around. So it's one of the ways to be sharing globally the best of digital. But additionally, what are your ideas on how we can share the best between different regions, different nations, because we see that even in our panel, we see that, let's say, the problems that we are facing can be a bit different. The ecosystems are different, the baselines are different, but still, if we want to have a better world, and this is what the United Nations SDGs and World Summit Awards is about, this is our goal. So how to make this experience sharing more efficient and to bring more change? And I'd like to start here with Busayu. Busayu, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you once again. It's quite simple. We believe that though it has to be procedural, we have to move from where we are to where we want to get. And I mean, the ideas in the room, that I've listened to are ideas that I think can work, in Nigeria and by extension other African countries, but the truth of the matter is we have to start from where we are, to get where we want to get to. And I think with partnerships, with the right kind of partnerships also, we can be able to see how we can be able to infuse these ideas together, marry them together, come from where we are, and build better and stronger. Just to also add a perspective to the question around demand and supply. For us, when we hear demand and supply, we look at it from the lenses of government, and in Nigeria, for example, we would say until citizens wake up to their responsibilities of holding their leaders to account, only then would government begin to see the need to do what it's supposed to do. But our journey is different. Our processes will be different, but the truth of the matter is that with the right kind of partnerships and collaborations cut across all the ideas we have, we can be able to arrive somewhere. And hopefully in the next few years, we can be bringing more solutions, to the world in general.
Yes, thank you very much, Busayu. Mike, what's your perspective on how to make this knowledge sharing more efficient?
Yeah, I think we have seen a lot of nice experiments, and I think we just start using it and share our ideas and bring people together online, offline. We can use living labs, for example. We can share the findings with our products with each other and try to figure out if the option works in other countries as well.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Ieva, what do you think on that topic?
Well, first, it's very a happy moment to be at WSA, and it's already a very great platform. And I think what we should do is to each of us feel like we are, a part of this global community first. And then it's calculated that, it takes 6 people in the world, and then it means that we know each other. So I believe that it takes only 6 steps to convince people around you to feel like, we are a part of this global world, and then it means that we have the whole community. So it's a bit of a utopian dream, but I do believe it could work.
This may be utopian, but it's a nice one, and thank you for that. Ricardo, what do you think?
I agree with Leva's input. I mean, it's bringing other people with different backgrounds into the same table. That could be done with workshops like this through wonderful organizations like WSA. It could be done in a digital workshop, or as colleagues from Alder before mentioned, digital innovation hubs or test beds or living labs that can be created to ensure that the technology helps solving those concrete challenges, because the SDGs are common, right? So we have common and standardized goals for us to meet. We have ambitious strategies for the different governments, but the local context indeed is different and unique. And in order to create awareness is to exactly bring their views to the table, allow them to share their experience, where they are now, where they want to go, and learn from others. And that doesn't take too much effort. It's just a matter of people finding the proper agenda to do it. And I believe that WSA is doing a great job on that. And it's just a matter of replicating it to other initiatives.
Yes, that's true. That's one of the things that we're doing here really today. And Omar, would you like to add something?
Yes, absolutely. I believe transparency is key in terms of communicating our needs to the world. And what we have done as a government in Qatar, that we have analyzed our digital needs in terms of smart solutions. We published them online. This actually helped us have very good discussions with different governments, different companies and entrepreneurs. And on the other side, as a government, we changed the law to allow international entrepreneurs to be able to bid from outside of Qatar without having to set up. So this has definitely involved or actually grown the international participation in our challenge or addressing our challenges. So I believe that that's one way to actually expand the know-how across borders.
Thank you so much. And now we are really already coming to the very end. And I wanted to ask Marta and Margus a very short wrap up. What is the message, what you'd like to leave our audience today with to inspire them to do the work further, to do good things for the community and for the world? Marta, please.
Thank you very much. Also, already these people and everybody watching us being here is a great step toward sharing great experiences, and already having these innovative companies and startups and governments here with us. It's something that speaks about need for collaboration. So the key word here is, for me, at least, collaboration. We should collaborate. We should learn from each other. And I guess, and I will repeat that, I've seen many different platforms, collaboration platforms. But what I have been witnessing throughout the years, as a result from my experience with WSA, is that there is no better platform for collaboration globally. And it really helped me understand the context in different countries and to approach different countries and provide some support or ask some countries like Estonia, Margus is here as well, to ask for supporting us. So I would again encourage everybody on this call to stick to the WSA, because WSA knows what is good for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta, so much. And Margus, just a very short remark from your side of inspiration of the people who are listening to and looking at us now.
I thank you. First of all, I want to thank everybody for giving me this opportunity to be part of this group, because I think that whatever platforms and solutions are developed or whatever information is gathered, it's about people coming together and discussing those things and having personal connections. So in this sense, I think that WSA has done tremendous work in order to collecting those great ideas and keeping up the community, in a sense that it's beyond the event which is happening at now. So there are like various formats how people can actually interact and so on. And I strongly advise everybody and call you up to contact with interesting people who you have already met via WSA in either in parallel channels or whatnot, because the innovation happens in outskirts, usually not in epicenter. And the further you go from your own location country, the more interesting idea or aspects you might find which are suitable in your current situation or location. So I want to thank everybody for participating. Thank you for having me, and I really looking forward of various interactions which we're going to have in the future.
Thank you, Margus. Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Ieva and Mike and Vasayo and Ricardo and Omar. Thank you so much for being part of this panel discussion, which was very interesting and inspiring for me, and I'm sure for the people who are listening to us today. So I wish everybody to be inspired and to have patience as well, because to reach our goals is not always easy, but at the end it's really rewarding.